It's Tuesday, March 7. In the headlines, cabinet members not involved in cannabis production, so says Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce. In business news, NCB introduces new digital payment app. Regionally, Inter-American Development Bank focuses on climate resilience. Internationally, South Korea plans to resolve row over Japan's forced labor. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. A little over 40 pounds. That's how much cannabis was imported by Jamaica, not to be sold. Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Senator Auburn Hill says it was imported for research purposes. The minister was responding to questions surrounding the importation of marijuana to Jamaica at a press brief at Jamaica House on Monday. Industry players had voiced concerns about importing marijuana or cannabis to Jamaica, but Minister Hill explained that Jamaica is signatory to the UN Convention on Narcotics Drugs 1961, as amended by the 1972 Protocol. He says it requires treaty states to limit the production, manufacture, export, import, distribution, trade, use and possession of drugs, and use for medical and scientific purposes.
The only import authorization that has been utilized is for a strain that is not in Jamaica. It's called Tranquil Elephantizer. We don't have that here. And they brought in, listen carefully, 44 pounds of this particular strain that they use in 5 of their branches. So each branch would come out at less than 9 pounds.
The minister also responded to social media claims that he or members of his family were in cahoots with the company which applied for and was granted the necessary permits by the Cannabis Licensing Authority CLA board.
No, my son is not involved in any cannabis anything. I see it in social media. I double check it in cabinet. No cabinet minister has any son or daughter in any cannabis anything. So for this one, you can leave us alone. I know you tackle us on lots of things, but you can just leave us alone. No. It's not so. Me check. Just coming out of cabinet and they're going back there afterwards. So we have it said that the minister does not get involved in that at all. So you can't, so I see some of them out in social media say who take bribe and how much me get and foolishness.
The minister said the CLA, through its Application Review and Decision-Making Subcommittee, has the authority to grant licenses for cannabis. He furthers that the actual process is not part of his purview.
The CLA works, make sure there's a measure of protection that people can't just come in and bamboozle people and get it. I think it's 9 of them on that subcommittee, so it's big. The Cannabis Licensing Appeal Tribunal, if they approve something, no, it is when they do not approve something and the applicant feels that they are unfairly done by, there is a Cannabis Licensing Appeal Tribunal, independent of the board, and they can apply to that tribunal to get their case heard and maybe overruled. We haven't had any of those yet, but the structure is in place to make it work.
Minister Hill adds that his ministry will work with the relevant stakeholders to review all related policies and strengthen the licensing, research and production process. As drought conditions continue to stem in the nation, the government is continuing its mitigation strategy and is actively asking Jamaicans to conserve in their water usage. At a press briefing at the office of the Prime Minister last Friday, Evan Thompson, Principal Director of the Meteorological Services branch in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, explained some of the details to journalists gathered at the OPM Media Press Center. Maya Chung has more.
According to Mr. Thompson, Jamaicans should make issues of drought, which are a result of climate change, which is affecting Jamaica, a priority. He implied all Jamaicans need to study and have some rudimentary knowledge, as the difference between life and death lay in conditions such as the effects of long-term drought. He said that many people believe that dry times and droughts are similar, if not the same, but he explained that this is not the case.
I just wanted to give a little bit of information as to what is really happening, the dryness, the drought. Sometimes we use the terms interchangeably, but they are really a little bit different. We go through a period of dryness every year, and sometimes it does lead us into drought, which is what we hope does not happen. But my presentation starts with the traditional rainfall pattern that our Prime Minister shared about earlier, the two peaks that exist, but also I wanted to point out that the lowest area in that pattern is really occurring in March. So March is traditionally our driest month of the year. The lowest amounts are at a minimum during the period February to March, and then there's a secondary low period in July, which we don't usually worry too much about because we expect tropical waves and other tropical systems to affect us. So that is what has been the traditional trend. But our recent trend, what we have noticed, I wanted to point out in this next slide, which shows what we've been experiencing since October, November, December, and in January. If you look at this bar chart, the middle portion is really what is occurring at this point in time. It shows the amount of rainfall during this season that we're looking at. The bar at the top of each section, so if we look at October, at the top we'll see what is normal for the month. In the middle you'll see what is happening currently, and then below that you'll see what happened last year at this time. So October, we see that we did have more rainfall than we had last year, but in comparison to what is normal, we still fell short. Going into November, again, we fell short of what is normal, but then we also fell short of what we experienced last year. So the conditions were becoming more on the lower end in comparison to last year.
According to the officials gathered at last Friday's press briefing, a meteorological drought, which is where the country was cited as being as at Friday, March 3, would see worsening conditions if it evolves into a hydrological drought.
Then moving into December, we see that there is a significant drop in the amount of rainfall that was experienced comparing to the norm. Again, it's much less than normal, but also comparing to what we experienced last year, significantly less, just about 50% of the rainfall that we got in the 2021 December was experienced in 2022. Then going into January, we see that the relationship between this current year and last year was even more worrisome, because we saw less than 50%, maybe just about 40% of what we experienced last year being experienced this year in January.
Thus far, the government has been moving at a clipping pace to keep up with the increasing lack of adequate water supply to the nation since the drought scenario began.
But just a preliminary check from the automatic weather station shows that there are many stations that experience no rainfall during February. There are some that experience some amount of rainfall, but appreciably below what we would have hoped for. And so the condition is most likely much more severe at this point in time than it was at the beginning of February. Looking at the normal year, that's what the picture on the left shows, what the general trend for January would look like. A normal year would see that kind of pattern with some amount of rainfall being experienced in the northeast of the island, the driest period being in the south central, moving toward the southeast of the country. But what you see on the right side is what we actually experienced in 2023. And you see it's a lot more oranges and browns than would have been seen normally. So clearly you can see just by a snapshot that we are in a much more severe situation than we would normally be seeing. So for January 2023, 12 of our, I'm saying 13 parishes, because we consider Kingston and St. Andrew as one parish in this case. For January, 12 of our 13 parish areas recorded below normal rainfall, with percentages between 8 and 72 of their 30-year monthly means. Only St. Elizabeth recorded above normal rainfall in January.
For the news on PBCJ, I am Maya Chung.
Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the tourism industry has undergone a significant transformation in the wake of COVID-19, and its future success now depends on the ability of its workforce to create innovative and distinctive experiences. The minister made these remarks on Friday at the inaugural Jamaica Center of Tourism Innovation's Tourism Career Expo, hosted by the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Tourism Product Development Company at the Montego Bay Conference Center. Maya Chung tells us more.
The tourism minister, during his speech to the over 400 students in attendance, took the opportunity to urge young Jamaicans to consider tourism as a promising career option, emphasizing the importance of rethinking their perspective on the industry. Bartlett highlighted that the reimagined tourism sector is not only financially rewarding, but also thrives on input from individuals with diverse skill sets and backgrounds, ranging from industries directly linked to tourism to those indirectly associated with it. The minister stated that the post-COVID industry requires a diverse range of talents, including those in fields like nuclear science, robotics, and nanotechnology. He also stressed that the future of work in tourism will significantly transform the sector, as machine intelligence and the Internet of Things will revolutionize the way basic services are provided. He predicted that this transformation would eliminate 70% of informal activities in tourism that pay lower remuneration, paving the way for more skilled and higher paying job opportunities. The recently concluded Tourism Career Expo was an integral component of the JCTI's public education program, which aims to provide internationally recognized certification for individuals interested in pursuing a career in tourism. In addition to certification, the JCTI, which is a department of the TEF, is responsible for raising awareness among Jamaican youth, including high school and college students, about the multitude of opportunities available in the tourism industry. The main objective of the Career Expo was to broaden young Jamaicans' understanding of the various job roles in tourism, as well as introduce students to both traditional and non-traditional career paths. Furthermore, the event served as a platform to connect employers and professionals with prospective job seekers and interns, while also providing recruitment professionals and guidance counselors with valuable information about available tourism jobs. For the news on PBCJ, I am Maya Chung.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Consumers shopping across the island can look forward to faster checkout times at the cashier with NCB's new digital payment app, NCB Pay. Similar to other popular digital payment applications, NCB Pay allows users to link their physical payment cards to a digital wallet on their smartphone. Users can then make payments at compatible point-of-sale terminals or near-field communication-enabled payment devices using only their NCB Pay app. The bank has so far partnered with Fantano to utilize the mobile application. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, March 6, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.79. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $113.50. The pound sterling traded for $184.44, and the euro sold for $166.27. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 1,878 points. The junior market index declined by 34 points. The combined market index declined by 2,073 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 3,144 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 107 stocks, of which 24 advanced, 63 declined, and 20 traded firm. Stocks advance for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, CAC 2000 9.5%, Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Cargo Handlers Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares and Jamaica Boilers Group with over 2 million units, followed by Regency Petroleum Company Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, zero securities traded. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, zero securities traded. In regional business, 2,000 micro and small businesses in Trinidad and Tobago will benefit from a training program aimed at leveraging these entities to grow and expand.
The program, Growing Together, was launched by the Coca-Cola Company and Caribbean Bottlers Trinidad in partnership with UE Roytech on Friday and will engage participants in several courses including business management, financing, customer service and innovation. Trade Minister Paula Gopi-Schoon said such a program will assist these entities to face gaps in business, training and knowledge, and noted that such a sector is key to the economy.
We know that SMEs are engines of economic growth for our economy, and according to the Central Statistical Office, it is estimated that there are about 20,000 SMEs operating in Trinidad and Tobago, and that they account for 85% of all registered businesses. The sector employs approximately 200,000 persons and contributes roughly 30% of the nation's GDP.
While General Manager of Coca-Cola Caribbean Bottlers T&T, Camille Chatur, said the company believes such a program would greatly assist small businesses having gone through a difficult period during the pandemic.
With this program, these small businesses will have the opportunity to bring successful enterprises to the next level and hopefully expose new generations of owners and employees to innovation and best business practices.
In international business, only a few months after Facebook parent company Meta reduced more than 11,000 people from its workforce, there's more report of another round of layoffs.
Meta employees could face yet another round of layoffs. Bloomberg says the social media giant will cut thousands of jobs as soon as this week. It comes just months after the Facebook owner laid off 11,000 people. The report said the new job cuts were driven by financial targets and separate to last year's layoffs. Meta declined to comment when contacted by Reuters. Last month, the Washington Post reported Meta planned to cut thousands in a reorganization and downsizing effort. Meta did not comment on that at the time, but a spokesperson tweeted previous statements by CEO Mark Zuckerberg that more cuts were coming. Meta's mass layoff in November was among the largest of the whole year and the first in company history. It wasn't alone in the tech industry to make wide-scale firings. Microsoft, Google parent Alphabet and Twitter also cut thousands of jobs.
In market data for oil prices edged lower as a stronger US dollar and weak oil data from top crude importer China shifted momentum after 5 days of gains. Brent crude futures fell 41 cents to $85.77 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude was down 40 cents to $80.06. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, the way has been paved for Barbados to begin the production and exportation of vaccines. This was revealed by Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Kerry Simmons.
Over the course of the next 5 years, Barbados and states like Barbados will be able to override the exclusive effect of patents through a targeted waiver that addresses the specific problem of facilitating and streamlining vaccine production and vaccine exports. Mr. Chairman, this country has been in a position where we have been able to lay the platform for vaccine production and obviously vaccine export in a manner and in a way that was completely unthinkable prior to this. During the course of this financial year, we will expand our diplomatic footprint into Ireland, and that is very important because of the heritage relationship which this country has. 1620 and onwards, there has been a heritage relationship with Ireland, and that has transformed itself into an investment relationship with Ireland. We are already in Ghana, we are already in Kenya, United Arab Emirates, and the advantages of this, sir, is not just to have new embassies created so that the Minister of Foreign Affairs can fly about. But the reality is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we are building people-to-people contact. And this is very important. We are laying the platforms for economic diversification and economic transformation.
The Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, called on Caribbean countries to renew their efforts to tackle several issues plaguing the region, including climate events. The calls were made at the IDB's consultation with Caribbean governors at the Hyatt on Monday.
On his first official visit to the Caribbean, newly installed IDB President Ilan Goldfein noted that the organization is uniquely positioned to support the Caribbean in rising to its challenges, especially to deal with frequent and costly natural disasters. He said the IDB continues to provide support to the region to strengthen its fiscal sustainability as well as to address climate change issues, noting there must be innovative ways to prepare and react with agility to natural disasters.
That we should be motivated and inspired to do more in this new phase. Last year, the IDB group approved almost $1.2 billion for the Caribbean countries. I'll tell you that that's more than double the previous year and 4 times pre-pandemic levels.
He added that the IDB has also invested in specific projects to assist Caribbean nations.
In Suriname, we approved a program to help provide solar energy to villages in remote areas. Here in Trinidad and Tobago, we approved a program to address inequality and inclusion by improving the water supply for about 1.3 million people. This will also improve health and commercial activity in marginalized areas.
And Planning and Development Minister Penelope Beckles-Robinson reiterated the need for action as it pertains to climate change issues, noting the negative effects to the Caribbean due to rising sea levels and coastal erosion.
The cost of inaction is extremely high. Projections indicate that cumulative losses could total $22 billion annually by the year 2050, a figure representing approximately 10% of the Caribbean's economy.
The consultation aims to consolidate the IDB's group support for the Caribbean in preparation for its annual meeting in Panama in mid-March. Sonolala, TTT News.
Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Governor Timothy Antoine predicts cryptocurrencies are doomed in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the ECCU, as their value continues to remain volatile. However, in contrast, Governor Antoine expects Dcash, the digital version of the Eastern Caribbean dollar, to continue to thrive.
Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, ECCB, Timothy Antoine, is expecting the use of Dcash across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union to grow while cryptocurrencies will essentially disappear. The governor, during the latest edition of A Conversation with the Governor, aired on ZIZ Radio and TV and the ECCB Connect's social media platforms on Thursday, said while some cryptocurrencies might still be in existence some years from now, digital currencies are here to stay.
So I believe, to answer your question, a few cryptos may survive. Some of the stable coins that are pegged to something may survive, but I think many of them will disappear. What I know is going to continue are digital currencies backed by central banks. And that is why today, about 70-75% of all central banks in the world are pursuing digital currencies. They're either doing the research, they're establishing pilots, or they've announced launches. Bank of Canada, Bank of England, China, they have all done or are doing digital currencies like we have done. So I think you will see central bank digital currencies.
Mr. Antoine made the distinction between crypto and digital currencies.
Cryptos are unregulated, very often without underlying value or assets. So unlike Dcash, which is a digital currency, not a cryptocurrency, Dcash is regulated. It's actually distributed by the central bank through financial institutions or agents. It has the full faith and backing of the ECCB, the balance sheet of the ECCB, just as our paper or polymer currency. It's the same currency, it's in digital form. Regulated, has underlying value in terms backed by a central bank. Cryptos are not. Cryptos are basically speculation. If you look at the value of Bitcoin today, when I checked, I think it's around, 26,000 thereabouts? At one point, it was 60-something thousand. The EC dollar has been 2.7 to 1 to the US dollar since 1976. That hasn't changed, even in the pandemic. The cryptos up and down, up and down. So they're being used for speculation. There are over 19,000 cryptocurrencies in the world. To answer your question, I think most of these cryptocurrencies will disappear. That's my personal view. Because there is a real concern, and I think you saw it with what happened with FTX in the Bahamas. Well, headquartered in the Bahamas, FTX was all over the world. You've seen it with other crypto exchanges last year. Cryptos have to be regulated.
Dcash was one of the first digital currencies in the world to be launched by a central bank. The Eastern Caribbean Central Bank publicly launched its historic Dcash pilot on the 31st of March, 2021. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
In international news, South Korea's government has announced a plan to resolve a long-running dispute on compensating people who were forced to work in Japanese factories and mines during World War II. Monday's plan, which was met with immediate protests in South Korea, but hailed as historic by the United States, comes as South Korea's president seeks to mend ties with Japan as North Korea accelerates its nuclear and missile programs.
While the faces of South Koreans forced into hard labor during Japan's colonial rule of the 1940s look on, young lawyers fight for those still living. They say the government's newest proposal to compensate the victims is a complete defeat.
There are 3 surviving victims of advanced age who are recipients of the Supreme Court verdicts. They have all clearly opposed the government's plan.
15 South Korean plaintiffs have waited years to receive compensation approved by a Supreme Court verdict in 2018 that had also pushed relations with Japan to new lows. The landmark ruling directed Japan's Mitsubishi Heavy Industries and Nippon Steel to pay up or face a liquidation of assets. But Japan insists all World War II reparations were finalized in a 1965 treaty with South Korea. Trying to find a solution for the decades-long diplomatic feud, South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin has announced a new deal that allows compensation through a public foundation funded mostly by South Korean companies. It would keep, however, Japanese firms out of legal responsibility.
I expect that the Japanese government will respond with a comprehensive apology, as well as the voluntary participation from Japanese companies to our government's grand determination to forge a breakthrough to improve strained South Korea-Japan ties.
The plan was swiftly endorsed by Tokyo and Washington, with U.S. President Joe Biden hailing it as a groundbreaking new chapter for the Asian allies, who say they are tightening their military alliance to confront threats from North Korea and China. But the plan faces legal challenges. It would require the endorsement of the victims and their families to give up their Supreme Court-granted legal rights for compensation. And for some, that is a betrayal. Eunice Kim, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
And that's the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.